Good evening, and welcome to Night History. You can close your eyes now, take a slow breath, and let your mind wander somewhere far, far back in time. Before we begin tonight's story, tell me, where are you listening from? And what time is it where you are? You can whisper it to yourself, or leave it below for others who drift through this quiet corner of history. Tonight, we're going to sink gently into a story that isn't shiny or glamorous. It's about something simple, something almost everyone took for granted: bathing. But what if I told you that the ancient baths, the grand marble ones filled with steam and laughter, were far dirtier than you could ever imagine? So, lie back, let the noise of the day fade away. If you enjoy wandering through these slow tales from the past, remember to like, subscribe, and keep the light dim, because the story begins now. You lie back, eyes half closed, and the world fades into the sound of slow trickling water. The night feels still, calm, and for a moment, you can almost imagine yourself centuries back in time, long before the scent of fresh soap, before modern showers, before anything that could truly make you feel clean. In those forgotten centuries, people didn't know the meaning of hygiene the way you do now. They lived in a world where dirt clung like a second skin, and water was less a symbol of purity and more a rare luxury. You might picture someone from that ancient time, dipping their hands into a clay bowl of cloudy water, wiping their face with a rag that's already been used a dozen times before. There was no bar of soap to lather, no clean towel waiting nearby. Instead, people used crushed herbs, sand, even ashes mixed with oil, all meant to scrape or absorb the dirt rather than wash it away. The oil would cling to the skin, sticky and thick, giving a kind of shine that only pretended to be clean. Imagine the faint smell that would linger afterward, not foul, but earthy, human, and strangely alive. Bathing wasn't about removing the scent of the body. It was about softening it, taming it, and masking it with the faint aroma of olive oil or resin. The very idea of being clean was different. It wasn't the sparkle of soap bubbles or the cool freshness of running water. It was simply not being visibly filthy. As you picture that, you can almost hear the slow scraping of bronze tools called strigils dragging across the skin. The sound would echo softly through small stone rooms where people stood side by side, removing sweat and dust together. It was a rhythm, a ritual. You'd oil your body first, wait a while, and then scrape the mixture off. The dirt came away, sort of. The oil, the sweat, the faint smell of human life. They stayed behind. If you were alive in that time, you might never know what it felt like to feel truly clean. You'd wake up every morning with the same oil on your skin, the same scent on your clothes, and you'd bathe not to refresh, but to repeat the same ritual your ancestors did. It wasn't a matter of choice. It was the way of the world. And yet, there's something oddly peaceful about it. The world was slower, quieter. The air was thick with the scent of smoke, herbs, and the faint sweetness of oils. There were no chemicals, no soaps that stripped the skin raw. Only warmth, patience, and routine. Perhaps that's why, as strange as it sounds, people believed they were clean enough, clean by their own measure. So tonight, as you drift deeper into the story, imagine that first age, a time before soap, when dirt was natural and cleanliness was just another illusion we hadn't yet invented. The story now drifts further back to a time when bathing wasn't yet about comfort or luxury, but about something almost sacred, Imagine a world lit only by fire and sun, where people believed water itself held power to heal, to purify, and to connect them with forces beyond their understanding. You can almost see them, small groups of people standing near a stream at dawn, their silhouettes moving slowly in the golden mist. They don't wash with soap or cloth. They simply let the cold water run over their hands, their faces, their hair. It isn't about removing dirt. It's about renewal. The very first baths in human history weren't private moments hidden behind walls. They were public, open, and shared with the earth itself. Ancient civilizations like the Sumerians and the Egyptians built small basins of stone where priests and rulers would cleanse before rituals. In those early days, bathing was seen as a bridge between the body and the divine. Cleanliness was not about smell, but about spirit. You weren't washing away dust, you were washing away bad energy, misfortune, and sickness. The Egyptians, for example, believed that cleanliness pleased their gods. They used scented oils, milk, and even crushed lotus petals mixed with water. The fragrance wasn't just pleasant, it was holy. Each morning, priests would bathe from head to toe before stepping into a temple, ensuring no trace of the outside world touched the sacred floors. And yet, outside those temple walls, ordinary people rarely bathed at all. Water was precious, and for many, daily washing was a dream, not a habit. In Mesopotamia, some of the earliest bathtubs have been found, carved from stone, smooth and deep. You can almost picture the water shimmering inside, reflecting flickering lamplight. But those baths were for the wealthy, and often for the dead. After all, many cultures bathed their deceased, believing that the body must be clean before facing the afterlife. The living, meanwhile, carried on, covered in the dust of their work, the heat of the fields, the scent of the same earth they tilled. As you think about that, imagine how the air would smell, a mix of clay, sweat, and smoke from fires burning nearby. The warmth of the ground under bare feet, the quiet conversations of people who didn't yet think of cleanliness as comfort, but as ceremony. Bathing was a moment of humility, of standing before something greater than yourself, letting the water touch your skin as though it understood more than words ever could. You can almost feel it now. The first drops of cold, ancient water brushing against your fingertips, the same way they did thousands of years ago. The first baths weren't about soap or scent. They were about feeling alive, feeling forgiven, even if for a few brief moments before returning to the dirt of the world again. Now the story shifts forward to the grandest age of bathing the world had ever seen. You find yourself standing in ancient Rome, where stone arches rise against the pale sky and marble floors echo with the sound of bare feet and dripping water. This is where bathing became more than cleansing. It became an obsession, a ritual of status, and a theater of daily life. Imagine stepping into one of Rome's great bathhouses, the Thermae. The air is thick with steam, perfumed faintly by oils and sweat. Hundreds of people move through wide halls, men, women, merchants, and soldiers, each with their own reason to be here. Some come to clean, some to talk, others simply to be seen. The baths are not silent sanctuaries. They hum with conversation, laughter, arguments, and the soft slap of water. You would begin your visit in the apoditerium, the changing room. Servants stand by, collecting clothes and sandals, storing them in small alcoves carved into the walls. The floor beneath your feet is cold stone, worn smooth by thousands of footsteps before yours. From here, you'd step into the tepidarium, a warm chamber that eases the body and loosens the tension of the day. The air hugs you, not hot yet, but comforting, like the warmth of early morning sunlight. Next comes the caldarium, the heart of Roman indulgence. It's a great steaming hall filled with hot pools and sweat-drenched faces. The water shimmers golden under torchlight. You can barely see across the room. The air is so dense with heat. Some sit quietly, eyes closed, breathing slow. Others scrub themselves with oil and strigils, scraping dirt and sweat into the water below. Water that will not be changed until the end of the day, maybe longer. You can almost smell it, the blend of oil, iron, and human skin. It is both soothing and suffocating. Romans prided themselves on being clean, but this was cleanliness by their own measure. The same pool that refreshed a senator would also soak the body of a farmer, a soldier, or a slave. The same water that touched the rich also carried the residue of hundreds before them. Still, to them, this was civilization. To bathe was to belong. The baths were the pride of Rome, places to meet friends, strike deals, discuss politics, and dream of empire. Even those who couldn't afford marble and mosaics found their way to smaller, humbler baths, where the same rituals played out in miniature. As you walk through the steam in your mind, you can almost hear the faint echo of Roman voices, thousands of them, rising and fading like the waves of the sea. They believed they had mastered the art of being clean, but the truth, as you'll soon see, was far murkier. Beneath the marble, beneath the water, there was a quiet filth that no empire could wash away. The warmth of the Roman bath still clings to your skin as you move deeper into the story. The air grows thicker, heavier, and you notice something unsettling. The water around you doesn't seem new. It feels old, used, as though 1,000 others have already passed through it before you. And that's not imagination. In ancient times, the water in those great Roman baths rarely changed. Each day, attendants would arrive early to fill the pools. They drew water from nearby aqueducts, feats of engineering that carried it from distant hills. But once it reached the baths, the flow stopped. The same water would remain there for hours, sometimes all day, sometimes longer. People stepped in and out constantly, oiling, scraping, rinsing, chatting. The water grew cloudy with every movement. A faint layer of oil and dirt floated across the surface like thin silk. Imagine the smell, warm, metallic, faintly sour. The baths were crowded from morning till evening, and with every passing hour, the water thickened. Skin flakes, sweat, bits of hair, even traces of blood from small cuts, all mingled together in the same shimmering pools. Yet, to the Romans, it was simply part of the ritual. The water might look dull, but the heat, they believed, purified it. Steam in their minds was cleansing. You can almost see the attendants with long ladles, stirring the water to spread the warmth evenly, unknowingly mixing in the filth as well. Sometimes they'd pour a little fresh water from above, not enough to clean, but enough to disguise the dirt for a while. It was illusion disguised as luxury. And yet the baths remained full every day. People trusted what they wanted to believe, that comfort meant cleanliness. In the smaller, cheaper baths used by common citizens, it was worse. There, the same pools served dozens who couldn't afford the grand thermae. The water wasn't heated by marble furnaces, but by simple fires below clay basins. Once it cooled, no one bothered to empty it. It just sat, thick, still, and strange. Some even thought the older the water, the more healing it was, as if time itself gave it power. As you picture it, you might feel the faint shiver of realization that even the mightiest empire, with its marble and gold, couldn't escape the truth of human dirt. No matter how elegant the surroundings, the same hands, feet, and sweat shared the same water. And as steam curled into the air, carrying warmth and scent together, people believed they were being reborn. But the water knew better. It remembered everyone. Every touch, every drop of oil, every secret shed into it stayed there, unseen, unspoken, swirling quietly in the surface glow. The baths of Rome weren't just mirrors of wealth and culture. They were mirrors of humanity itself, beautiful, proud, and deeply unclean. The air in your mind grows warmer again, thick with the scent of olive oil and faint smoke. You can almost hear it, the slow metallic rasp of bronze against skin, a sound that echoes through the stone chambers like a whispering rhythm. This is the music of ancient cleanliness, oil, sweat, and scrapers. The Romans, like the Greeks before them, didn't use soap. Instead, they used oil, thick, fragrant, and heavy. It was poured from small jars, often warmed before use, and rubbed gently onto the skin. You can imagine the feeling, smooth, slick, almost soothing. It wasn't meant to wash away dirt, but to bring it to the surface, to loosen it. The body became coated, glistening under the soft light of lamps. Then came the tool, the strigil, a thin, curved piece of bronze or iron shaped like a bent crescent moon. Its edge wasn't sharp, but firm enough to scrape away the oil and everything caught in it: dust, dead skin, sweat, and the grime of daily life. The motion was methodical, almost meditative. Long strokes down the arms, across the shoulders, over the chest and legs. Attendants, often slaves, performed the ritual for others, especially for the wealthy. Each scrape left behind a faint red mark and a sense of strange satisfaction, a false feeling of purity. If you listen closely, you might hear the quiet chorus of many scrapers working at once, a metallic hum mixed with the low murmur of conversation and splashing water. It was the sound of an entire civilization trying to stay clean without ever truly achieving it. The oil caught everything, and the strigil removed it, or so they believed. But the truth was simpler and more human. The grime just moved from skin to metal to water over and over again. Imagine the sight. Attendants wiping the strigils on rags already darkened with oil and dirt, then dipping them in the same communal bathwater before using them again. The smell of olive oil, once fresh and green, thickened into something sour mixed with sweat and smoke. Yet, to the Romans, this was refinement. They believed the warmth opened the pores, that oil kept the body supple, and that scraping renewed the skin. It wasn't hygiene as much as performance, the illusion of cleanliness repeating endlessly in marble halls. And after the scraping came perfume. Scented oils, rose, myrrh, lavender, or cinnamon, were rubbed over the skin to mask what lingered. The aroma drifted through the baths like invisible silk, wrapping filth in fragrance. Everyone left glistening, shining under the torchlight, polished on the surface, unwashed underneath. If you were there, standing in that dim, steaming room, you might think it beautiful at first. The glow of oil on skin, the shimmer of water, the hush of voices. But the longer you stayed, the more you'd feel it. The weight of sweat in the air, the closeness of so many bodies, and the faint, stubborn truth that no matter how hard they scraped, the dirt of life always clung back again. Now the scene shifts again. You walk deeper into the Roman thermae, past the open pools and the marble benches, into a room that breathes heat like a living thing. The air shimmers faintly, the stone walls glisten with moisture, and your breath becomes heavier, slower. This is the caldarium, the steam room of the ancient world. The Romans loved their heat. Beneath your feet, an entire network of hollow bricks and clay pipes, the hypocaust, carries fire's breath from distant furnaces. The floor itself is warm, almost too hot to touch. Steam rises from copper cauldrons, curling through the air in lazy swirls, blurring faces into soft, ghost-like shapes. You sit on a smooth stone bench, surrounded by others. No one is really alone here. The baths were never private. They were crowded, alive, full of murmured conversations and laughter echoing against the wet walls. The mist hides faces, but not presence. You can feel every movement, every shift, every exhale. For a moment, you close your eyes. The soundscape changes, the dripping of condensed steam from the ceiling, the soft splash of water being poured on heated stones, and somewhere far away, a low crackle from the fire that powers it all. The warmth presses against your skin, heavy and sweet. It feels comforting until you remember what else hides in the haze, because the steam, for all its soothing charm, wasn't pure. It carried with it the residue of oil and sweat from earlier rituals, the moisture of countless bodies, the faint odor of skin and smoke. The walls, darkened from years of vapor, trapped everything: dust, oil, and even disease. The Romans didn't know it, but these same baths that brought them relaxation were also slow vessels of contagion. You imagine the heat loosening pores, the body vulnerable, and the air thick with invisible life, bacteria and mold feeding on damp stone, and yet no one cared. For them, this was luxury. The heat made them forget fatigue. The steam soothed muscles after long marches or labor. It was the closest thing to peace an ancient Roman could find in a world of noise and conquest. You look around through the fog, and you notice something subtle, a rhythm of motion in the haze. Conversations grow quieter, glances linger. The baths weren't just about cleansing the body. They were places of politics, gossip, desire. The caldarium became a world of shadows, where whispers carried more meaning than words, where warmth blurred the line between comfort and temptation. Somewhere behind you, a drop of water fall, sharp and distinct, like a reminder that everything here is temporary. The heat fades, the mist thins, and soon the same people who felt purified will return to the streets, their bodies slick with oil, and their minds still carrying the quiet dirt of unseen things. You stand to leave, feeling both heavy and light, as though the steam has seeped inside your thoughts. The Romans believed the baths cleansed not just the skin, but the soul. Yet, if you could step outside now into the cool evening air, you might realize they only traded one kind of impurity for another. As you step out from the thick haze of the steam room, the air cools against your damp skin. The next ritual begins. Around you, men stand before marble basins, their bodies gleaming with oil, not soap. There is no soap in these times, no foamy bubbles or fragrant lathers. Cleanliness, as the Romans understood it, came from oil, sweat, and scraping. You watch one man dip his fingers into a small bronze jar. He scoops out a golden liquid, olive oil, thick and glistening, and spreads it across his arms, his chest, his shoulders. Others do the same, rubbing the oil carefully into every crease of skin. The smell is earthy, sharp, faintly bitter. Soon everyone shines under the lamplight like living statues. But this isn't for beauty. The oil is meant to lift the dirt from their pores, dust, sweat, and grime, so it can be scraped away. And then comes the tool, the strigil, a simple curved blade of bronze or iron, smooth-edged, shaped like a crescent moon. Each bather holds one, running it along the skin with practiced strokes. You can almost hear the sound, the soft rasp as metal slides over flesh, collecting everything the body has shed that day. A mixture of oil, dead skin, and filth gathers on the blade. Some wipe it on cloths, others simply flick it to the floor, letting it splatter onto the same stones that dozens of others stand upon. And if you look closely, you'd see the dark streaks everywhere, marks of invisible labor, layers of what people believed they had left behind. There's something mesmerizing in this repetition. Scrape, wipe, breathe. Scrape, wipe, breathe. The rhythm becomes almost meditative, like shedding the day itself. Yet, as you watch, a thought stirs quietly. What happens to all that waste? The answer is simple. Nothing. It stayed. The baths were rarely cleaned as we would imagine today. The residue gathered in corners, on benches, along the seams of the marble. Every visit added another invisible layer to the place's history. Even the attendants, those who worked day and night, didn't notice anymore. Their bare feet moved across the same slick floors, their hands carried the same tools, the strigils themselves were reused by hundreds, sometimes shared without thought. The thin film of another person's sweat became yours in an instant, and still it all seemed normal. The Romans believed this was the height of refinement, proof of civilization itself. To them, the idea of scraping and oiling was almost sacred. The dull shine of their skin was a sign of vitality. But to you standing here centuries later, it's hard not to feel the quiet irony. The more they tried to clean, the more they spread the dirt. A servant passes by carrying a wooden bucket. You glance inside and see it, a swirl of golden brown sludge, thick and strange. That was once olive oil. Now it's everything that came off the human body, blended together, still warm. You exhale slowly. For all their brilliance, the aqueducts, the mosaics, the architecture, the Romans never realized how close beauty and filth could live together. Their tools didn't just clean them. They told a deeper truth, that no matter how much you scrape, some things always remain. You move further along the marble corridor, past the scraping and shining, and a faint sweetness drifts toward you, a scent that doesn't belong to stone or sweat. It's floral, warm, and a little intoxicating. The Romans loved their perfumes, and this room smells like their answer to all the filth they refused to see. Inside, small clay bottles line the walls. Each one is filled with oil infused with crushed petals, herbs, or resins, rose, lavender, myrrh, cinnamon, and sometimes even spikenard from distant lands. Slaves carefully pour them into shallow dishes, and the air grows heavy with fragrance. You can almost taste it when you breathe. Here, bathers gather after scraping their skin raw. Their bodies are red from heat and metal, glistening with the faint sheen of new oil. Attendants move gracefully between them, applying scented mixtures to their shoulders, their hair, their chests. It's an act of luxury, or maybe distraction, because the smell hides what lies beneath. You watch one man inhale deeply, his eyes closing as if the aroma alone has made him pure again. He believes in the illusion. The fragrance convinces him that the dirt is gone, that the air itself is clean. But in truth, the perfume only coats it, one layer of scent on top of another. Beneath the rose lies the olive oil, beneath the oil the sweat, beneath the sweat, the memory of every other bather before him. The Romans were masters of masking. They perfumed everything, their bodies, their clothes, even their pets. Nobles would sprinkle perfume on marble floors or burn resin in small bronze burners to hide the sour smell of humidity and decay. In the Grand Thermae, fountains gurgled not just with water, but with fragrance designed to trick the senses. For a moment, it works. The whole room feels lighter. The air hums softly with conversation, laughter, and the clink of small glass jars. But underneath the sweetness is something faintly sour, something that never truly leaves. You realize this was their way of coping. Civilization is often built not on cleanliness, but on the art of pretending. You glance toward a small alcove where a woman, one of the attendants, mixes oils with crushed petals using a smooth stone. Her hands are stained faintly green from herbs, her wrists shining from the mixture. She doesn't wear the perfume herself. It's too precious. The scent clings to her only because she works near it all day, breathing it in until her lungs probably carry the fragrance home. The irony deepens. For those who could afford it, perfume meant status, a sign that they belonged to the world of silk and marble. For those who served, it was a haze they lived in but never truly owned. The divide smelled sweet, but it was still a divide. As you stand there, surrounded by the blend of sweat and roses, you begin to understand something the Romans never did, that cleanliness is more than what you cover. It's what you confront. But they were too busy smelling beautiful to notice how dirty their beauty had become. The air is thicker now. You inhale one last time before moving on, realizing the scent will follow you for hours, just as it followed them through centuries. You leave behind the sweet haze of perfume, stepping into a quieter part of the Thermae. The floor beneath you is smooth marble, cool now after the heat of the steam rooms. It feels solid, eternal, but that illusion hides a secret few ever thought about. Beneath those perfect white slabs, filth has been collecting for years. You can almost hear it, faintly, the gurgle of water running through the hidden tunnels below. The Romans were proud of their plumbing systems, their aqueducts, their drains. And yes, they were brilliant. Vast channels carrying water across valleys, under cities, through walls. But what few talked about was where that water went after the baths were done with it. The truth. It rarely went anywhere. The used water, thick with oil and dirt, would flow down narrow stone drains, cloacae, and settle into dark pits beneath the structure. There it mixed with discarded scraps, old cloths, bits of hair, slivers of soapstone, even food thrown by careless attendants. These hidden places, warm and damp, became breeding grounds for everything the Romans didn't want to see. Insects, worms, mold, even rats. You picture it now. A worker crouching in the dark, knee-deep in muck, scraping at the stone walls with a wooden shovel. Few ever saw him. His job was to keep the filth from clogging the system, to let the illusion of cleanliness above remain unbroken. He worked at night, when the baths were empty and the fires had cooled. The air below was thick and foul, a mix of rot and oil that clung to the lungs. And still, he scraped. Every elegant bath you see in the history books, every marble statue and mosaic floor, stood above this unseen world. It was the foundation of Roman cleanliness, filth buried under beauty. The higher you built, the deeper you had to hide the dirt. And there was something poetic in it too. The Romans believed in layers, in gods above, mortals in between, and the underworld below. Their bathhouses reflected the same hierarchy. Up here, light and laughter. Down there, shadow and decay. The two depended on each other, even if no one ever said it aloud. Sometimes, when the heat from the hypocaust was too strong, the sludge below would bubble faintly, releasing small pockets of foul air that crept up through cracks in the marble. The bathers thought it was just steam. They never realized they were breathing the memory of their own waste. You take a slow breath, imagining that smell lingering in the air, faint, sour, metallic, the kind that stays even when you stop noticing. And maybe that's what makes these baths truly haunting. They weren't just places of comfort or culture. They were monuments to denial, proof that even the cleanest civilizations are built on what they choose to bury. So, as you walk on, remember, the floors may shine like mirrors, but they reflect only what lies above. Beneath them, the truth sleeps in the dark, warm and alive, waiting for the day someone decides to look down. You step out of the shadows beneath the floors and into the open halls once more. Here, the baths become something entirely different, less about cleansing, more about society itself. The Romans did not merely bathe. They performed, they mingled, and they displayed their status in every splash, every gesture, every glint of oil on skin. Picture it. Long benches carved from white marble, pools filled with warm, shimmering water, and people moving gracefully between them. Senators lean on the edges, discussing politics in hushed, deliberate tones. Merchants gesture with wide hands, boasting of wealth and deals made. Young men and women flirt subtly, their eyes meeting across the steam. The bathhouse is alive, not just with water, but with the heartbeat of a civilization. You might notice how the baths were carefully divided by class. The grandest sections, adorned with mosaics and statues, were for the elite. Here, the water was heated more efficiently, and attendants moved more attentively, smoothing oils and adjusting perfumed lamps. The common citizens, meanwhile, gathered in smaller pools. Their water was recycled more often, their floors slicker and colder, their noise more persistent. Yet, the act of bathing, of showing up, leveled everyone, if only slightly. In your mind, you can hear the murmur of conversation mixing with the splash of hands and the occasional clink of metal tools. Even in silence, the room is alive. The warmth and scent create intimacy without privacy. You might feel the brush of another's arm as they pass, a subtle reminder that your body is never entirely your own in this world. Some Romans arrived for relaxation, others arrived for gossip. You imagine whispers moving through the steam, secrets traded, alliances formed, rivalries ignited. In the haze, no one could be certain who was overhearing. The baths were, in many ways, an arena of subtle performance. Every gesture of care, every careful stroke with the strigil, every dab of perfume, communicated more than simple hygiene ever could. And yet, beneath all the splendor, the baths remained fundamentally the same. The water was shared, the air heavy with oil and sweat, the hidden filth ever present. Luxury did not purify. Perfume did not cleanse. Status and display, however, created the illusion that one was above the grime of common life. As you wander mentally through the bathhouse, it is clear. The Romans understood more about theater than hygiene. Their baths were stages where every citizen, from slave to senator, played a role. And while they marveled at the marble and mosaics, few stopped to notice the small truths lurking in the water, clinging to skin, whispering from the stone beneath their feet. You step back from the pool, imagining the scene fading into the mist. And perhaps for a moment, you realize that the story of cleanliness is never simple. Even in the most opulent surroundings, the human body remains stubbornly alive, messy, fragrant, and undeniably present. As you drift through the bustling halls of the bathhouse, your attention turns to the silent figures who move gracefully among the marble and steam, the attendants. They are the unseen caretakers of this elaborate world, responsible for both order and illusion. Without them, the baths would descend into chaos, yet few ever think about who they are or what they endure. These attendants are slaves or low-ranking workers, their lives entwined with the rhythm of water, oil, and heat. From dawn until late evening, they scrape, pour, and manage, ensuring the bather's experience feels effortless. You can picture them bending over pools, scooping water to maintain the temperature, ladling oils into dishes, and cleaning tools that have carried the sweat and grime of dozens before. Every action is repeated countless times, a delicate choreography no one else notices. Some attendants have specialized roles. The capsari are in charge of clothes and sandals, carefully storing them in small cubby holes while the bathers relax. Others move through the pools, whispering instructions, offering perfumed oils, and ensuring that no one slips on the slick marble. Their hands are perpetually damp, stained faintly from herbs, oils, and the residue of many bodies. You imagine what it must feel like, moving constantly between the lavish and the filthy. Their work is invisible, yet essential. A single misstep, a dirty tool left unattended, a spill of hot water, a misplaced strigil could ruin the illusion of cleanliness for the wealthy. The attendants carry the weight of an entire social system on their shoulders, their labor bridging the gap between fantasy and reality. Despite their invisibility, the attendants are fully aware of the bathhouse's true nature. They see the filth that accumulates in corners, the layers of oil floating atop the pools, the residue clinging to benches. They know that no matter how much perfume is sprinkled, no matter how polished the marble, the baths are never truly clean. Yet their duty is to maintain appearances, to uphold the grandeur of Rome, even in the presence of quiet decay. You can almost feel their fatigue as they move endlessly, muscles aching from scraping and lifting, breath thick from steam and heat. And yet, there is a rhythm to their labor, a strange harmony between effort and observation. They witness human behavior, vanity, gossip, desire, in a setting both intimate and public. The attendants know what the bathers do not. The baths are as much a stage for pretense as they are for cleansing. As you imagine them slipping quietly through the mist, adjusting oils here, replacing a tool there, you gain a new perspective. The grandeur you saw earlier is fragile, maintained by invisible hands. Beneath the warmth and fragrance, beneath the laughter and conversation, the attendants sustain the baths, preserving the delicate balance between beauty and filth, illusion and reality. You move now to the very heart of the bathhouse, where warmth becomes almost tangible, curling through the halls like a living creature. The hippocaust beneath the marble floors hums softly, carrying the heat of distant fires into every corner of the rooms above. Steam rises in thick curling columns, wrapping around bodies, benches, and pillars. It is mesmerizing, almost magical, and yet it is also deceptive. The Romans believed heat purified. They thought steam opened pores, expelled toxins, and cleansed the body. You can almost feel the warmth pressing against your skin, seeping into muscles and bones, carrying the subtle scent of olive oil, sweat, and herbs. It's soothing, comforting, almost hypnotic. For a moment you might forget the layers of grime beneath, the bodies that have shared this water, the subtle filth that clings invisibly to everything around you. And yet, steam does not cleanse. It hides. It magnifies the illusion of freshness while disguising what lies beneath. Beneath the warmth, beneath the delicate haze, the air carries tiny droplets of water mixed with oil and human residue. It lingers in the lungs, coats hair and skin, and clings to the marble like a silent witness to centuries of use. Smoke joins the steam in the air. Fires burning beneath the floors release faint traces of soot, a reminder that every warmth here is manufactured and maintained by labor. The attendants work tirelessly to stoke these fires, to feed the furnaces that make comfort possible. You can almost hear the crackle beneath your feet, a quiet counterpoint to the splashes, whispers, and laughter above. The combination of steam and smoke creates an otherworldly effect. Light refracts through the haze, making figures appear softer, almost unreal. Faces blur, conversations echo in unusual ways, and the room itself seems larger than it is. To the Romans, this was part of the magic of bathing, a temporary escape from the harshness of daily life, a moment where warmth and water created a separate world. And yet, the deeper truth is unavoidable. Beneath the beauty of mist and glow, the baths are alive with the evidence of thousands of human lives: oil, sweat, tiny skin flakes, and the faint beginnings of mold in corners. Steam doesn't wash, it masks. Smoke doesn't purify, it layers. What the Romans felt as luxury was, in essence, a dance between sensory delight and hidden decay. As you lingered in this mental scene, you feel the contradiction settle in. The baths are at once comforting and threatening, beautiful and dirty. Every inhale is a mixture of life and labor, perfume and grime, warmth and warning. It is here, in the thick haze of steam and smoke, that the true essence of Roman bathing is revealed: an art of illusion, a ritual of pretense, and a quiet acknowledgement of human imperfection. The warm, fragrant air of the Roman baths feels soothing, almost hypnotic, but beneath that comfort lies a hidden danger, one the bathers never fully understood. The very places they trusted to cleanse and refresh them were, in fact, perfect breeding grounds for illness. Water that remained stagnant for hours, sometimes days, became a reservoir for bacteria and parasites, invisible threats carried in every splash. Imagine the countless bodies entering the pools each day, covered in oil, sweat, and dust. Tiny scratches, cuts, or abrasions on the skin allowed germs to pass easily from one person to the next. The warm water, meant to relax muscles and open pores, only encouraged their growth. Ancient Romans believed that heat purified, but in reality, it created an ideal environment for microscopic life that humans couldn't see. Diseases like dysentery, skin infections, and other ailments silently spread through the baths. Yet, the Romans persisted. Bathing was essential to social life, an obligation, a display of civilization. The idea of avoiding the baths was unthinkable, even for those who suspected the risk. Cleanliness, after all, was judged not by health but by appearance: polished skin, fragrant oils, and a sense of ritual completion. You can almost picture a Roman stepping out of the water, his skin slick with oil, his body perfumed and shining. He feels refreshed, renewed, confident in his appearance. But within hours he may carry a small infection, a trace of another's sweat or bacteria lurking invisibly on his skin. The illusion of cleanliness masks the reality of exposure, just as perfume masks odor. Even the attendants, constantly moving between pools, scraping bodies and handling tools, were not immune. Their labor put them in constant contact with the hidden dangers. Yet, they endured because it was their duty, because the baths demanded it, and because no one else cared to confront the truth. From this perspective, the Roman obsession with bathing seems ironic. They prized hygiene, civilization, and refinement, yet the very structures they built to achieve these ideals propagated the opposite. Health was a distant goal. Ritual and appearance mattered far more. As you stand mentally in the midst of the thermae, you feel the tension between comfort and risk, beauty and decay. The baths were not merely places of leisure. They were ecosystems of life, some visible, some hidden. The Romans, brilliant and sophisticated, were blissfully unaware that in every warm pool, every fragrant hall, disease moved silently, claiming its place alongside oil, perfume, and conversation. As you wander further into the Roman thermae, you realize that bathing was never just about hygiene. It was a stage for social interaction, a theater where power, desire, and politics intertwined with every splash of water. In these grand halls, the scent of oil and perfume mingled with whispers of ambition, gossip, and subtle seduction. You can imagine senators reclining on marble benches, their bodies glistening in the dim light, discussing alliances and policy with low voices. Nearby, merchants boast of their latest profits, while young men and women exchange flirtatious glances across the pools. Every gesture matters. A hand laid lightly on the edge of a basin, a deliberate movement with a strigil, even a faint inhalation of perfume, all communicate status, intention, and subtle influence. The baths were egalitarian only in appearance. Social hierarchies remained deeply ingrained. The elite enjoyed heated pools, mosaics, and attentive attendants, while common citizens made do with smaller, colder pools, thinner oil, and fewer attendants. Yet, within these walls, the distinction sometimes blurred. A witty remark, a well-timed smile, or a small act of generosity could elevate someone socially, even if only temporarily. You notice the effect of scent as well. Perfumes weren't merely decorative, they were instruments of persuasion. A subtle aroma of myrrh or rose could suggest refinement and attract attention. The Romans understood this intuitively, using fragrance to mask reality, to project civility, and to influence perception. In the steam and warmth, appearances carried immense weight, and yet all this performance occurs in a setting that is fundamentally filthy. The water remains shared, the air thick with oil, sweat, and the faint residue of hundreds of bodies. The illusion of refinement conceals the filth beneath, but no one seems to mind. After all, everyone is complicit, playing roles, masking flaws, performing civility, while ignoring what truly lingers in the pools and on the marble. As you drift mentally through this scene, you realize the baths are microcosms of Roman society itself. Every interaction, every gesture, every layer of scent and oil is part of a delicate performance. Power, status, and desire mix with the basic human need for cleansing, or at least the illusion of it. And even though disease and filth lurk quietly in the background, the Romans continue to bathe, to socialize, and to pretend that the world is cleaner than it ever truly is. The baths, you understand, are not just places of water and stone. They are mirrors of human behavior, reflecting vanity, ambition, and the eternal tension between appearance and reality. The scene now shifts to another layer of the Thermae, the areas where women bathed. You step lightly in your imagination, noticing that while the men's halls were bustling with politics and deals, the women's sections carried a different rhythm. Here, the air is scented with flowers and herbs. Laughter mingles with gentle conversation, and the subtle slosh of water marks every movement. Women bathed both for hygiene and for social reasons, much like the men. Oil and strigils were used here as well, but there was an added layer of ritual and preparation. Hair was carefully oiled, braided, or adorned with simple ornaments. Perfumes and creams, rose, myrrh, and cinnamon, masked the reality of shared water, giving the illusion of purity and refinement. You can almost feel the delicate touch of scented oils gliding over the skin, the slow scrape of bronze removing residue without harming the body. But the baths were communal, and privacy was scarce. Women navigated these spaces with grace and caution, aware of the presence of attendants, peers, and sometimes male visitors in nearby sections. Conversation was gentle, playful, and sometimes sharp, a form of subtle negotiation of social status. Alliances were formed, advice exchanged, and secrets shared. The Thermae were more than just a place to cleanse. They were networks of influence, communication, and camaraderie. And yet, the reality beneath the ritual remained the same. Pools were shared, oils circulated, and water became increasingly cloudy with each passing hour. Skin flakes, sweat, and traces of oils from dozens of bathers mixed invisibly in the water. Perfume masked the smell, and the warmth gave comfort, but the truth lingered. Filth coexisted with luxury, and every woman participating was part of this quiet, unavoidable truth. You noticed the attendants moving between the pools, carrying perfumes and oil, attending to everyone's needs. They are as essential here as in the men's halls, their labor invisible but critical. Every ritual stroke, every pour of fragrance, every adjustment of oil is designed to maintain the appearance of beauty and cleanliness, masking the reality beneath the surface. In these women's baths, the illusion is perhaps more delicate, more refined, yet no less fragile. Beneath the oils, perfumes, and polished marble, the same universal truths persist. Warmth cannot wash away what is shared, fragrance cannot erase the presence of many bodies, and no amount of ritual can fully purify what lies within the water and the air. As you drift away from this hall, the scents linger in your mind, sweet and heavy. A reminder that the pursuit of cleanliness in ancient baths was as much about ritual, society, and illusion as it ever was about water itself. Now, picture the youngest visitors to the baths, children running barefoot across the slick marble, laughing as they dip into shallow pools. The baths were not just for adults seeking luxury, politics, or socializing. They were also spaces where the young learned, played, and participated in the same rituals that shaped adult life. Children often arrived with their families, guided carefully by attendants or parents. They were taught the routines of bathing early, rubbing oil on their arms, learning the gentle scrape of a strigil, and understanding the significance of warm pools and scented oils. It was both a practical education in hygiene by Roman standards and a social one, introducing them to the layered etiquette of the Thermae. You can imagine the sounds: laughter bouncing off marble walls, splashes of water echoing in the high ceilings, and the occasional shrill call of a parent warning a child not to slip. In these moments, the bathhouse was lively, chaotic, yet structured. Even in play, children absorbed the customs, noticing how the rich and powerful moved, how attendants served, and how rituals masked the reality of shared water and filth. Despite their youth, children were not immune to the underlying dangers. The water, thick with oil and residue, carried the same invisible microbes as for adults. Tiny scratches or cuts could be pathways for infection. Still, the baths remained essential for both education and family bonding. The warmth and communal nature encouraged social learning, making the bathhouse an arena for teaching etiquette, observation, and adaptability. You can almost feel their small hands tracing the edges of basins, their tiny feet balancing on slippery floors, their faces bright with curiosity and excitement. The attendants watch carefully, ensuring safety and maintaining the flow of rituals. Yet the children inevitably leave traces behind: oil, skin flakes, and laughter that linger like a scent. Here, in the presence of the young, the bathhouse feels alive in a different way. It is less about performance and more about discovery, less about status and more about participation. And yet, the same truths persist. Water is shared, the air carries filth along with warmth and fragrance, and no ritual can fully cleanse what has been touched by so many hands, so many bodies. The presence of children adds another layer to the story of Roman baths. It reminds you that these spaces were living, breathing places where humanity in all stages, young, adult, and old, intersected with luxury, labor, and the quiet persistence of unseen dirt. As you leave the playful echoes of children behind, your attention turns to another group that dominated the Roman baths: athletes. For the Romans, bathing was not just about socializing or ritual. It was intimately connected to physical activity, training, and the maintenance of the body. Imagine a gymnasium adjacent to the pools. Young men practice wrestling, running, and discus, their bodies slick with sweat before they even reach the water. After exercise, they enter the warm pools to soothe aching muscles and cleanse themselves. Though, as you now know, the process is far from truly hygienic. Oil and scraping help remove dirt, sweat, and dust from the sand-filled training grounds. Yet the water remains shared, dense with residues from every prior bather. Athletes appreciated the baths for more than ritual. The warm water relaxed stiff muscles, the steam eased sore joints, and the oil provided a layer of protection and comfort. But the communal nature of bathing meant that even the strongest and healthiest were not exempt from the invisible network of germs and microbes swirling beneath the surface. Every pool they entered was a mix of effort, labor, and quiet filth. You can almost see the routines. An athlete dips a foot into the tepidarium, stretches, rubs oil across tense muscles, and uses a strigil to scrape off the remnants of the day's exertion. Fellow athletes watch each other, exchange advice on technique, and discuss competitions, all while sharing the same water and breathing the same warm, perfumed air. There is a sense of camaraderie here, but also a subtle awareness that proximity carries risk, though no one names it aloud. The baths reinforced a culture of performance for athletes as well. Strength, endurance, and appearance mattered not only in the gym, but also in the communal spaces. Shiny, oiled bodies displayed health and vitality, marking status among peers and observers alike. Yet, in this pursuit of excellence, they could not escape the persistence of human residue, sweat, oil, and skin flakes mingling invisibly with their efforts. And so, the bathhouse becomes both a sanctuary and a testing ground. The young athlete learns that comfort and ritual coexist with risk and labor. Physical prowess is celebrated, but it does not purify the environment. You realize, as you watch these figures glide through steam and water, that even in the pursuit of health and athletic perfection, the baths remind everyone of the enduring presence of shared humanity, messy, fragrant, and persistent. You now drift to the quieter corners of the bathhouse, where observation becomes a subtle form of learning. The baths were more than leisure spaces. They were classrooms of human behavior, social norms, and bodily rituals. Every movement, every gesture, every interaction held lessons for those paying attention. Children, young citizens, and even newcomers absorbed the customs around them. They watched how attendants moved with grace and precision, distributing oils and perfumes, scraping skin with careful rhythm. They noticed how the wealthy positioned themselves near heated pools, how they conversed with authority, and how subtle displays of cleanliness became symbols of social standing. Even the minutiae mattered. How a bather applied oil, the angle of the strigil, the way one dipped into the pool. These gestures carried unspoken messages about wealth, refinement, and self-awareness. Observation taught young Romans not only hygiene, but also etiquette, subtle negotiation of status, and the art of performing civility. You imagine a young Roman watching from a distance as an elder demonstrates the correct ritual. Oil is warmed in small jars, hands glide over skin, and the scraping begins. The child notes the careful pressure, the rhythm, the attention to detail. Later, that child imitates the motions in shallower water, learning through repetition the balance of ritual, appearance, and social expectation. Observation extended beyond rituals of cleansing. Conversations, gestures, and laughter were lessons in rhetoric, persuasion, and human interaction. The baths were arenas where one could practice reading subtle cues, understanding hierarchy, and navigating complex social dynamics, all while appearing to perform the mundane act of bathing. Yet, even in this act of learning, the underlying reality remained. The water shared by many, the air thick with oil and perfume, the hidden filth beneath the marble, all were constant reminders of human imperfection. Those who learned in the baths were taught both the rituals of refinement and the quiet persistence of reality. By the time a young bather matured, the lessons were ingrained. They understood how to present themselves, how to negotiate status, and how to perform civility. But they also carried an unspoken knowledge that appearances often conceal truths, that ritual cannot fully erase reality, and that every luxurious act is layered with unseen labor and unseen filth. The baths, you realize, were not merely about water or hygiene. They were a school of observation, a stage for socialization, and a mirror of human behavior, teaching lessons that extended far beyond the stone walls and shared pools. You shift your attention now to the subtle interplay of heat and cold in the Roman baths. Temperature was not incidental. It was central to the bathing ritual, shaping both the physical and social experience. The thermae were designed with a series of rooms, each offering a different level of warmth, creating a journey for the body and mind. First, there was the tepidarium, a room of gentle warmth. You step inside, feeling the soothing heat wrap around your skin. It is a transitional space where the body slowly acclimates. The warmth relaxes muscles, opens pores, and prepares bathers for more intense experiences. You can almost feel the anticipation in the air, a collective inhalation as people settle into comfort, oil in hand, ready for the rituals to begin. From here, bathers move to the caldarium, the hottest chamber. Steam rises thickly, clinging to every surface, blurring the edges of vision. The air is heavy, saturated with moisture, oil, and perfume. Heat intensifies every sensation, the slickness of oil, the scrape of the strigil, the faint pressure of others nearby. Here, the body is most vulnerable, yet most celebrated. Muscles soften, skin glistens, and the illusion of cleanliness is strongest. After the intense heat, a plunge into the frigidarium awaits. Cold water shocks the system, closing pores and invigorating the senses. You can almost hear the gasps and laughter as bathers immerse themselves, water splashing across marble floors. The contrast between hot and cold is deliberate, a way to stimulate circulation, awaken the mind, and enhance the sensory drama of bathing. Temperature, however, is a double-edged sword. The heat encourages bacterial growth, while the cold, though refreshing, does not cleanse. Every immersion carries remnants of those who came before, traces of oil, sweat, and filth mingling invisibly in the water. The sensory pleasure of warmth and shock of cold distract from the reality. The baths remain shared, imperfect, and persistent in their imperfections. You notice the choreography. People moving from warm to hot to cold, performing the ritual in silent synchrony. Attendants monitor the transitions, ensuring oil is reapplied, strigils are ready, and social etiquette is maintained. Temperature is not merely physical, it structures behavior, defines roles, and creates rhythm. In this cycle of heat and cold, you perceive a deeper truth. The baths are a theater of sensation, ritual, and illusion. Warmth and chill shape the body, but they cannot erase the layers of human presence. The temperatures that soothe also conceal. The contrast that invigorates also distracts. And in that delicate balance, the essence of Roman bathing is revealed. A dance between comfort and reality, indulgence and inevitability. As you continue through the bathhouse, your attention settles on the repetitive, almost meditative act of exfoliation. This was an essential part of Roman bathing, performed with tools and oils that promised a smooth, polished surface, yet concealed the unavoidable presence of shared filth. You watch a bather select a curved bronze strigil from a small tray. The tool is simple but effective, worn smooth from years of scraping. Oil is applied generously, warm, fragrant, golden olive oil infused with herbs or perfume, coating every inch of skin. Then, with careful pressure, the strigil glides across arms, shoulders, and torso. You hear the faint rasp as dead skin, sweat, and oil lift from the surface, flicking away onto cloth or the marble below. This motion is both cleansing and performative. The bather moves deliberately, aware of who is watching, aware of the subtle messages embedded in each stroke. Skill with the strigil is admired. A smooth, even scraping suggests refinement, precision, and experience. But no matter how expertly performed, the water and air remain shared, the filth only partially removed, mingling invisibly with what follows. You notice the rhythm of the room, scraping, rubbing, dipping into the pools, reapplying oil, an endless cycle that reinforces both hygiene and social performance. Attendants move silently among bathers, guiding hands, adjusting oil, and occasionally offering gentle corrections. The ritual becomes a choreography of motion, an interplay between human touch, sensory pleasure, and societal expectation. And yet, for all the care, nothing is truly private. Strigils are often shared, pools are communal, and the air thick with oil and steam carries remnants from previous bathers. The ritual is as much about the illusion of cleanliness as it is about any real purification. The act itself, performed correctly, signals refinement, status, and knowledge of social norms. The reality beneath, though, is unavoidable. Filth persists, invisibly embedded in the water, air, and stone. You observe small variations, too. Some bathers favor a gentle touch, others scrape vigorously. The choice may reflect personality, experience, or even attempts to impress. Yet beneath these differences lies the same constant truth. Ritual cannot erase reality. The act of exfoliation, while vital to the Roman sense of bathing, is ultimately a dance between perception and truth. As you step back, the sound of scraping and splashing lingers in your mind. The rhythm of human labor, ritual, and performance continues endlessly. A reminder that Roman baths are spaces of both indulgence and deception. No matter how polished the skin appears, the shared nature of water, air, and tools ensures that filth, invisible and persistent, is never far away. You linger now on the oils themselves, the golden lifeblood of Roman bathing rituals. Olive oil, the most common, was valued not only for its moisturizing properties, but also for its ability to loosen dirt and prepare the skin for scraping. But oils were more than practical. They were symbols of luxury, status, and refinement, and their use carried subtle lessons in social awareness. You imagine a bather selecting a jar from a shelf. The oil glimmers in the soft lamplight, warm and fragrant, infused with herbs, flowers, or resins. Each type of oil has its purpose. Some soothe the skin, others add scent, and a few are reserved for special occasions, signaling wealth or favor. The act of applying oil is deliberate. Hands glide over arms, shoulders, and chest, coating every curve with a thin, glistening layer. Oil served another, less obvious function. It helped hide imperfections. The sheen masks blemishes, scars, and the subtle evidence of previous bathers. A polished body looks flawless under candlelight and through the haze of steam. But beneath the beauty lies the persistent reality of shared use. Every drop carries traces of what came before. The oil that nourishes one bather is simultaneously a vehicle for residue from dozens of others. You notice attendants carefully mixing oils with fragrances, creating blends that are as much about perception as hygiene. Perfumed oils convince bathers that they are clean and luxurious, even if the water and tools remain imperfect. These scents linger, clinging to skin and hair, masking odor while signaling refinement. The ritual of applying oil becomes almost theatrical, a performance of civility, taste, and awareness. And yet, the very oils that smooth and perfume the skin also trap the invisible remnants of other lives. Dead skin, sweat, and microscopic traces cling within the oil, invisible to the eye but ever present. Luxury and filth coexist in every golden drop, a quiet paradox that the Romans accepted without question. As you step back mentally and observe the shimmering bodies moving through pools and steam, the role of oil becomes clear. It is at once functional, aesthetic, and symbolic. It comforts the body, masks imperfections, and signals social standing, all while carrying the invisible proof of communal use. In this, the baths reveal their dual nature, spaces of indulgence and display, simultaneously cleansing and contaminating, beautiful and flawed. Your gaze now shifts upward to the heads and hair of the bathers. Grooming was as essential as oiling the body, and the Romans took pride in the appearance of their hair. Women and men alike invested time in washing, perfuming, and styling their locks. turning hair care into both a ritual and a statement of refinement. Imagine attendants moving carefully among bathers, carrying bowls of warm water and fragrant oils. Some mix infusions of rosemary, lavender, or rose petals, massaging the liquids into hair to soften it, add scent, and create a glossy finish. Others comb and braid, ensuring that every strand aligns with societal expectations of beauty. For women, hair was often elaborate, with curls, twists, and ornaments signaling wealth and taste. Men preferred shorter, more practical styles, yet even they displayed tidiness as a mark of civilization. Hair care in the baths served dual purposes. Practically, oils and washing helped remove dirt, sweat, and the residue of oil scrapes. Socially, a well-groomed head signaled status, self-respect, and adherence to custom. To appear untidy was to risk judgment, ridicule, or social exclusion. Yet even here, illusion dominated reality. Perfumed oils mask lingering dirt, combs distribute shared residues, and the appearance of cleanliness rarely corresponds fully to hygiene. Children observed closely, learning grooming rituals from parents and attendants. Young girls might practice braiding in shallow pools, while boys mimic the motions of combing and perfuming. The baths once again become classrooms, teaching lessons in aesthetics, social awareness, and performance, even as they mask the persistence of communal filth. And so, hair becomes another layer of the bathing narrative. Strands glisten under lamplight, scented oils leave invisible traces, and the process of grooming reinforces both ritual and hierarchy. The bathhouse is as much a salon as a cleansing space, where perception carries more weight than reality, and every lock of hair tells a story of labor, indulgence, and careful performance. As you step back and take in the room, you see the interplay clearly. The sheen of hair, the scent of oils, the polished skin, all highlight the beauty of Roman bathing, yet all conceal the persistent truth that cleanliness is never absolute. Beneath the surface, shared use and invisible residue endure, quietly reminding every bather that luxury and filth are inseparable partners in this ancient ritual. As you glance downward, the attention shifts to the often overlooked part of the body, the feet. In the baths, feet received care as meticulous as the rest of the body, for every detail mattered in the pursuit of refinement and social presentation. Though small, these rituals reveal much about Roman bathing culture. You imagine a bather sitting on a low bench, one foot submerged in a shallow basin. Attendants massage the arch, scrub the soles, and remove layers of dead skin. Tools for scraping, smaller than the full-body strigils, glide over toes and heels. Oil and herbs are applied to soften and scent, leaving feet smooth, supple, and fragrant. Even the smallest extremities are not neglected, reflecting the Romans' obsession with thoroughness and appearance. Foot care was both practical and symbolic. Practically, soaking and scraping prevented calluses, infections, and odor. Symbolically, clean, cared-for feet represented discipline, attention, and adherence to ritual. In communal spaces like the baths, even toes were a subtle reflection of civility. One poorly groomed foot could betray a bather's status or ignorance of social norms. Yet, as always, perfection was an illusion. The shallow basins were shared, water mingled with oils and skin remnants, and attendants moved quickly, balancing efficiency with precision. Every foot that entered carried traces of previous bathers, sweat, oil, and invisible filth, a reminder that even attention to detail could not escape the communal nature of the space. Small details extended beyond the feet. Fingernails were scraped, ears cleaned, and minor blemishes addressed. Every act reinforced the notion that appearance mattered as much as hygiene. The baths were places where careful observation and precise ritual could elevate a bather's social perception, masking imperfections and projecting refinement. In focusing on these minute rituals, you see the true dedication of the Romans to their bathing culture. Luxury, performance, and illusion extended to every inch of the body, from head to toe. And yet, beneath this meticulous care, the same invisible reality persisted. Shared water, lingering oil, and residual filth made absolute cleanliness impossible. The baths, in their grandeur and ritual, reveal a society obsessed with control, appearance, and subtle power, yet constantly reminded that the human body, no matter how adorned or polished, remains inherently communal and imperfect. Now, your senses are drawn to the fragrances that linger throughout the bathhouse. Perfumes were more than adornments. They were instruments of illusion, masking reality while conveying social cues. The air is heavy with the mingling of rose, myrrh, cinnamon, and other exotic aromas, creating an atmosphere both intoxicating and deceptive. Imagine an attendant moving silently through the steam, carrying small vessels of concentrated perfume. A few drops are added to the pools, a few brushed onto skin, and some applied directly to hair. The fragrances are carefully chosen, not only to please the senses, but to signal wealth, refinement, and attention to detail. In this way, scent becomes an invisible layer of social performance. Perfumes serve a dual purpose. They mask the inevitable odors of shared water, oil, and sweat, creating the illusion of absolute cleanliness. They also create memory, a lingering signature of a bather's presence, noticeable even after they depart. A well-chosen scent can enhance perception, attract attention, and even convey subtle messages about status or intention. You notice how bathers move, inhaling deeply as they apply oils and scents. The act is both ritualistic and performative, demonstrating knowledge of proper etiquette while creating an aura of elegance. Attendants, skilled in the art of fragrance, ensure that every movement enhances the illusion of luxury, making every bather appear refined and cared for. Yet beneath the fragrant air, reality persists. The water remains shared, the oils retain traces of previous bathers, and the scent merely masks the invisible layer of filth. Perfume does not cleanse, it obscures. In this, the baths reveal a subtle paradox. The more effort invested in appearance and sensory indulgence, the more it hides the persistent truth of communal human presence. As you drift through the haze of fragrances, you realize that scent in the thermi is both armor and decoration. It comforts, it dazzles, and it misleads, but it cannot erase the invisible legacy of those who came before. Perfumes, like ritual and labor, are part of the delicate dance of Roman bathing, where illusion and reality coexist, fragrant and unavoidable. Stepping back to view the bathhouse as a whole, you begin to see it not merely as a place for washing, but as a microcosm of Roman society itself. Every pool, corridor, and chamber reflects layers of hierarchy, ritual, labor, and illusion, compressed into a single, shared space. The grandeur of marble, mosaics, and statues communicates wealth and civilization, while the steam, oils, and perfumes create a sensory environment designed to impress. Yet beneath this elegance, the underlying reality remains constant. The water is communal, the air thick with human residue, and the unseen filth beneath the floors reminds you that perfection is an illusion. you notice patterns emerging. The elite occupy the warmest pools, commanding attention through subtle gestures and carefully applied oils. Children observe and imitate, learning manners and rituals. Athletes and laborers move purposefully, displaying their skills and endurance. Attendants orchestrate it all, invisible yet essential, maintaining the delicate balance between order, appearance, and underlying chaos. Even the invisible elements, microbes, residual oil, and human flakes, play a role in this microcosm. They remind you that no matter how sophisticated, wealthy, or refined a civilization becomes, the fundamental truths of human biology and interaction persist. The baths in their social choreography highlight both ambition and limitation, appearance and reality. You can imagine stepping into this space as a visitor in ancient times. Every sense is engaged, warmth from the floors, fragrance from oils, glimmer from mosaics, the soft scrape of strigils, and the quiet labor of attendants. You participate in a performance that is both personal and collective, private and public, luxurious and flawed. The bathhouse is more than architecture, it is society crystallized. Power, status, social learning, hygiene, and illusion coexist in a single orchestrated environment. Here, the Roman ideals of civility, performance, and refinement are enacted daily. Yet the invisible truths, filth, shared exposure, and human imperfection remain ever present, a quiet counterpoint to the grandeur above. In recognizing this, you understand why the baths endure in memory. They encapsulate both the brilliance and the contradictions of a civilization, a space where human behavior, labor, and illusion are intertwined, teaching lessons about culture, control, and the unavoidable presence of shared humanity. As you linger in the grandeur of the bathhouse, one idea becomes impossible to ignore. Luxury is largely an illusion. The marble floors, glimmering mosaics, and fragrant oils create a perception of perfection, but the reality beneath is persistent and unavoidable. Every ornate detail masks the same shared water, invisible residue, and human presence that defines the baths. Imagine walking along the marble corridors, feeling the warmth beneath your feet and inhaling the mingled scents of perfumes, oils, and herbs. Everything seems polished, deliberate, and carefully curated. The elite move through these spaces with practiced grace, displaying refinement and status at every gesture. Perfume, oils, and ritualized motion all contribute to a veneer of cleanliness and sophistication. Yet, beneath this curated experience, the bathhouse is teeming with evidence of shared human life. Oils mix in pools, skin flakes drift invisibly in the water, and microbes persist in every corner. Even the most elaborate rituals, scrubbing, oiling, perfuming, cannot remove the traces of those who came before. Luxury in the Roman context is as much about perception as it is about hygiene. You notice how bathers engage in subtle performances, a well-timed stretch, the careful placement of hands on marble edges, a deliberate pause to admire the mosaics or statues. Every motion communicates civility, status, and refinement. The illusion is carefully maintained by both the attendants and the bathers themselves, a choreography of labor and observation designed to impress while concealing reality. The attendants are essential to sustaining this illusion. Their work, scraping, applying oils, monitoring pools, distributing perfumes, is largely invisible yet critical. Without them, the performance would falter, and the reality of communal filth would become undeniable. The more lavish the bathhouse, the more dependent it is on this hidden labor to preserve the perception of luxury. In understanding this, you realize that Roman bathing is not simply about hygiene or pleasure. It is a delicate balance between appearance and reality, indulgence and labor, luxury and unavoidable imperfection. The grandeur of the bathhouse, the scents, the rituals, and the meticulous grooming are all part of a system designed to comfort, impress, and distract, even as the unseen truths of shared water and human presence persist. As evening descends, the bathhouse takes on an entirely different atmosphere. The sunlight fades, shadows deepen across marble columns, and lamps flicker, casting soft, wavering light over pools and corridors. At night, the baths are quieter, the rhythm slower, and the rituals more deliberate. Imagine walking along the tepidarium, the warm air curling around you as steam rises from still pools. The shadows lengthen, the noise diminishes, and the baths feel almost otherworldly. In this gentle hush, every detail, the glint of oil on skin, the subtle scent of perfumes, the soft scrape of a strigil, becomes more pronounced. Night amplifies perception, making every action seem both intimate and deliberate. For those who linger after the day's crowds, the bathhouse offers reflection and subtle pleasure. Conversations are quieter, flirtations more nuanced, and rituals more intentional. The warmth of the pools is intensified by the cooler air outside, and the glow of lamps creates an illusion of infinite space. Yet, as always, reality persists. The water remains communal, the air carries invisible traces of previous bathers, and the scents of oils and perfumes mingle with the faint persistence of human residue. Attendants work quietly, their movements almost ghost-like in the dim light. They refill oils, monitor temperatures, and maintain order while remaining unobtrusive. At night, the labor of the baths is even more evident in its necessity. Without these unseen hands, the illusion of luxury and refinement would fade, exposing the underlying filth and chaos. You sense that nighttime bathing heightens the duality of the experience, intimacy and exposure, relaxation and vulnerability, beauty and decay. The baths are simultaneously comforting and revealing, a space where human behavior is both observed and performed under softer light and slower rhythms. In these hours, the bathhouse becomes a mirror of human complexity, warmth concealing risk, luxury masking imperfection, and ritual maintaining appearances. Night emphasizes the quiet paradox that defines Roman bathing, the simultaneous presence of indulgence and filth, spectacle and labor, elegance and unavoidable reality. As you step back mentally and observe the bathhouse in its entirety, one truth stands out clearly. All this luxury relies on immense labor. The elegance of marble floors, the glimmer of mosaics, the warmth of heated pools, and the aroma of perfumes all depend on human effort, often unseen and unacknowledged. Fires burn constantly beneath the hypocaust, attended by slaves or hired workers, maintaining the precise temperature of every room. Water must be fetched, heated, and circulated, while pools are scraped and cleaned, though never fully purified. Attendants apply oils, perfumes, and strigils with precision, ensuring every bather appears refined and polished. Every act, no matter how small, contributes to the illusion of perfection. You can imagine the rhythm of labor, shovels of coal feeding the furnaces, attendants refilling jars of oil, perfumers grinding herbs and resins into fragrant mixtures. Even the simplest gestures, stirring a pool, wiping a bench, adjusting a lamp, are vital. Luxury is meaningless without these constant, tireless efforts, yet the laborers themselves remain invisible. their presence acknowledged only by the results of their work. This human effort contrasts sharply with the bather's perception of effortless indulgence. To an outsider, the bathhouse appears as a seamless experience of warmth, fragrance, and cleanliness. Yet, beneath every polished surface is the proof of labor: worn floors, subtle traces of oil, and the faint hum of fires sustaining the environment. The grandeur of the baths is not natural. It is manufactured, maintained, and dependent on continuous work. Even the rituals of grooming, bathing, and perfuming require guidance. Attendants instruct bathers in the proper application of oils, correct use of strigils, and appropriate gestures. Without this orchestration, the illusion of refinement would collapse, exposing both filth and the raw effort needed to maintain appearances. In recognizing the labor behind luxury, you understand a fundamental truth about Roman baths. Every element of indulgence, from warmth to scent to ritual, is inseparable from human effort. The baths are not merely spaces of pleasure. They are arenas where social performance, sensory delight, and hidden labor converge, creating an environment that dazzles while quietly masking its dependence on toil. As your focus broadens, the bathhouse reveals itself as a labyrinth of shared spaces where interactions unfold naturally and unintentionally. Pools, benches, corridors, and even corners become venues for connection, observation, and subtle negotiation of relationships. The communal nature of the baths is unavoidable. Every body, every gesture, and every movement intersects in a delicate web of social dynamics. Picture bathers moving through the tepidarium and caldarium, their polished, oiled bodies glistening under soft light. Conversations float through the air, some casual, others deliberate, touching on politics, gossip, or personal matters. The shared experience fosters a sense of intimacy, yet it is tinged with caution. Everyone is aware of proximity, scent, and appearance. Even the most trivial gesture, a hand brushing a marble edge, a glance across a pool, carries subtle meaning. The communal water is both a connector and a conveyor of risk. Every splash, every step in the shared pool mingles residues, sweat, oil, skin flakes, and microbes. The bathers are participants in an unspoken contract, balancing comfort, ritual, and vulnerability. Their interactions are shaped by the simultaneous pursuit of cleanliness, appearance, and social perception, all while negotiating the invisible reality beneath the surface. Children learn observation here. Athletes display strength, and adults signal refinement. Each interaction reinforces social hierarchy and shared understanding, making the baths a microcosm of Roman society. Even moments of laughter or playful gestures reflect broader cultural norms, where etiquette and ritual are inseparable from human presence and imperfection. You notice the duality of these shared spaces. They foster community and connection while amplifying exposure and risk. The bathhouse is simultaneously safe and perilous, luxurious and imperfect, private and communal. Human interaction, whether intentional or incidental, shapes the experience as much as architecture, temperature, or ritual. By the time you step back mentally, the bathhouse appears as a living organism, its lifeblood composed of warmth, scent, labor, and shared humanity. Every interaction, deliberate or fleeting, contributes to the ongoing narrative of indulgence, illusion, and invisible reality. The baths are at once a social stage and a mirror, reflecting the persistent contradictions of Roman life. As your journey through the bathhouse nears its end, It's time to pause and reflect on the entirety of the experience. From the moment you entered, the baths have been a place of contrasts, warmth and cold, indulgence and labor, luxury and filth, intimacy and vulnerability. Each element, every ritual, every scent, contributes to a complex dance between perception and reality. You recall the children playing and learning, the athletes performing, and the elite displaying status. Attendants moved tirelessly in the background. Oils were applied, strigils scraped, and perfumes mingled in the humid air. Every bather participated in a ritual both personal and collective, performing civility and refinement, while simultaneously sharing an environment dense with human residue. The baths were more than a place to wash. They were spaces where society, ritual, and human behavior intersected. Every detail, from heated floors to mosaics, from oil to fragrance, from hair care to foot scrubbing, reinforced cultural ideals of cleanliness, beauty, and status. Yet, beneath the surface, reality persisted. Communal water, invisible microbes, and the constant presence of human imperfection reminded everyone that true purity was impossible. Despite this, the Roman baths remain a testament to ingenuity, culture, and social sophistication. They demonstrate the human desire for comfort, order, and appearance, highlighting both our capacity for ritual and our tendency to mask truth with illusion. In their grand halls, the interplay between indulgence and labor, performance and vulnerability, elegance and filth is clear and enduring. As you step back mentally, the bathhouse becomes a lens through which to view Roman civilization itself, brilliant, ambitious, and deeply human. Every ritual, scent, and motion teaches a lesson, that indulgence is intertwined with effort, that luxury masks reality, and that human behavior is as much about perception as it is about substance. The baths encapsulate a civilization's values, contradictions, and rhythms, leaving behind lessons that resonate even across millennia. In the quiet of reflection, you recognize that these spaces were never truly about water alone. They were arenas of human experience, where the pursuit of beauty, cleanliness, and social grace played out alongside the unavoidable realities of shared existence. And in understanding this, the full story of Roman bathing, its indulgence, its labor, and its persistent imperfections, comes vividly to life. As you slowly drift away from the marble halls, warm pools, and fragrant air of the Roman baths, take a moment to reflect on everything you've seen. The baths were far more than simple places for washing. They were stages for social performance, arenas of education, sites of labor, and laboratories of human behavior. Every detail, from oils and perfumes to the rhythm of scraping and bathing, carried lessons about status, appearance, and societal norms. You've glimpsed the lives of children learning rituals, athletes perfecting both bodies and social perception, women navigating etiquette and beauty, and men displaying refinement and authority. Through it all, attendants worked tirelessly behind the scenes, their labor invisible, yet essential to the illusion of luxury and civility. The baths taught the art of observation, the importance of ritual, and the delicate balance between indulgence and unavoidable reality. Yet, beneath the grandeur and sophistication lay persistent truths, communal water, invisible filth, and the unchanging presence of human imperfection. Perfumes masked it, oil disguised it, and ritual structured it, but it never disappeared. This duality, beauty and filth, luxury and labor, appearance and truth, defines the enduring fascination of Roman bathing culture. As you lie back, perhaps imagining the gentle steam and warm marble, let these reflections remind you of the timeless nature of human behavior. We seek comfort, refinement, and social connection, but we are always bound by the realities of shared existence. The baths reveal not only the ingenuity of the Romans, but also the eternal human dance between illusion and reality, indulgence and effort, and the desire to appear more perfect than we truly are. So, as you close your eyes tonight, remember the lessons hidden in the warmth, fragrance, and ritual of these ancient spaces. Let the story of the baths guide your thoughts, a gentle lullaby blending history, human behavior, and the quiet persistence of truth.